All right, can we put them face up?
No.
No? No?
No, not face
All right,
up.
well, I'm calling either way.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Cards and Capital. As you can see in the background here, it's Christmas season. It's time to do something unique. I'm Sean. Normally what I do is I play poker part-time. I invest my winnings into the stock market to build wealth. But on this episode, I'm investing in something totally different. I'm investing in you, the greatest asset of all.
Oh, he's so thoughtful.
I'm gonna go play. Whatever I win at the tables in this session goes to you in the form of giveaways. I'll explain all that, but let's get to the table and start playing.
All right, I settle into the table. I got the goal of winning some money for you. I'm going to do it. I will be successful. I get dealt pocket nines in the big blind. Middle position raises to $20. The button calls, and I will also call closing the action. I'm going to be checking basically any flop, which is what I do, on 6 of spades, 7 of spades, queen of hearts. Button folds to a continuation bet. I'm going to call to see what the turn brings. The turn is like the popular girl from high school who is really nice looking on the outside, but turns out to be full of garbage and is bad news for you. This beautiful, ugly ace hits the board. I check again, and villain bets $70. This is now a very easy fold. I'm holding a static hand, meaning it's not really going to improve from here, and my opponent's semi-bluffs just came in on the turn with this ace. We fold, and we're stuck a little bit to start this session. The next hand I get is ace-jack suited, and I raise large to slap these limpers in the face, give them a swirly, and steal their lunch money. They all lay down their medium hands, and we add a few chips to the stack, uncontested. Then I get pocket eights on the button. There's a raise to $15 and the entire table decides to call. I'm happy to call and try to flop a set. Complete brick, not meant to be this time. We'll keep fighting. I now play a hand against a player who is very solid, has played fairly straightforward in the past when I played with him. It's been a while since we've actually sat down and played cards. Can't guarantee that his action's going to be the same, but it has been fairly snug in the past. He opens it up from under the gun +1, folds around to me, and I'm charging $65 for a flop. He decides that he wants to pay that price. The flop looks great for these kings, and I bet way down to $45. He now check raises to $120. This sizing perfectly sets up his remaining stack for an easy jam. Now in the past when I have played with this player and he's check raised me, it has been very strong hands. It's been value pretty much every time. I just make the call, even though I could probably be smashing the money in here. Turn changes absolutely nothing, and now my opponent checks. Solver says to jam when he checks with this low stack to pot ratio. But at the time, I was thinking that this is either a give up with a bluff or a trap from a monster where he knows that he can get stacks in on the river with the current SPR and wants to add some confusion. I decided to check behind. As far as GTO standards go, I'm making a big mistake here. My history with this player tells me that if he had a real hand, he probably would have put the money in already. And that said, I'm not going anywhere, and so I kind of made a weird play here where I think he's bluffing. I'm going to see if I can get him to just put the rest of the chips in on the river. River is another blank and gives me even more reasons to bet when he checks again, but I was so stuck on the trap or garbage mindset that I just checked back, and he surprised me by showing that he had opened queen 3 suited, called the 3-bet, and then just attempted to steal it from me. So I was giving him the rope to hang himself, but he just kind of knew once he check raises and gets called, he can't put the rest of the money in. Even if I did jam though, he's never calling with queen 3 of clubs, so I gave myself the highest probability to get paid. Unfortunately, he just was never going to put the money in from that point. Regardless of bad play, the stack moves up to $950. I think we can do a lot better. Let's keep playing. I have queen 9 suited in this next hand and I'm on the button. The table's been folding when I go for these like large raises over a bunch of limpers. So I decide, you know what, I've got position, I've got decent cards, I'm going to go for that again. I raise it up to $35, expecting that I'm going to get some folds a fair amount of the time. As it turns out, instead I end up with multiple callers. On the flop it checks to me. This board is dry, but I'm not going to try to bluff multiple opponents just yet. On the turn we pick up a flush draw, and my first opponent leads out for $45. Player in between makes the call. Given the price and the board, I'm happy to just call and see what happens on the river. Again, this is not a spot I really want to try to bluff multiple players. I have position, I'll have last action on the river if it does come in, and I do have some live outs here. I think a queen could even be good. River's a deuce, which does absolutely nothing for us. Opponent leads again, but this time for $120. Now for me, it's a pretty easy decision to just let this go. Stack drops to $850. For this next hand, I get pocket eights. I raise it up to $20, and I get 3-bet. Now, often when you get 3-bet, you're just going to let something like this go, but there is a caller in between, and our stacks are fairly deep, so it's not too bad of a price that I'm getting here to go ahead and set mine. I toss in the call. Let's head to a flop. The dream flop here would be an 8 on an ace-high board. So when this flop comes down, boom! My heart's boom, just pounding in my chest. I'm thinking, yes, we did it. The only way it can really be better is if the flop were real. But it's not. It was a 7. My eyeballs kind of saw it wrong as it was sliding out. Turns out we did not flop a set. There's a continuation bet on an ace-high board. We have pocket 8s in a 3-bet pot. Easy fold. Stack is now in the red, $50. My next hand is King Queen of Clubs. I'm in the hijack. I raise to $25. Button calls and the big blind calls. We're off to a flop that is very decent for my hand, but is probably not going to make a ton of money versus worse. So I start off with a check and it checks through. The turn is fine. My opponent bets $40 and I'm going to call. River is the 7 of spades and he bets again but takes a very small sizing. I'm guessing that he's looking for very light value, begging for a call from worse. I'm going to have to hope that he also has a queen, but that his kicker's not going to play. I toss in the call, and it seems that under-repping the hand on the flop pays off, as he shows ace-8 suited, and we get to drag this pot. Next up, I have ace-queen suited under the gun, and open to $25. This table's calling way too often, so going with a smaller size from earlier might not be ideal. I still end up with 2 callers. Let's see a flop. Top pair, top kicker's looking pretty good on this rainbow board, and I lead out for $45. Both players make the call. The turn is a complete blank, and I have an opponent who is short. I bet $210 to get his stack in. He does call, and the button folds queen jack face up. I was hoping to get called by something like that, so let's see where we're at. I end up holding versus an open-ended jack 10 that decided to call, and send my opponent on a walk for more chips. While I'm stacking up chips, I quickly chop up a big blind versus small blind situation, and move to the next hand, where it folds around again, and this time I'm the small blind versus the big blind, but the big blind does not chop. With that in mind, 5 of clubs, 7 of clubs, I open it up to $15. I don't play a lot of blind versus blind spots. I'm not a big tournament player, and this doesn't really come up in cash games. He makes the call, we're off to a flop. The flop is beautiful, as I have a nicely disguised 2-pair right away. I'm going to miss the board most of the time in this spot. Let's play the bully and bet $20 like we're trying to steal it. He tosses in the call. Turn is the 4 of spades. I bet $35, and this time he raises to $80. He's going to be ahead of me some amount of the time here when he does this, but given that we're playing blind versus blind, his range will have a much higher turd factor, meaning that in order to balance, he's going to have to be bluffing much more often. I make the call. I must have bumped my screen at this point as my footage cuts off in the middle of the hand, but I did end up calling. River's the 3 of clubs. This isn't ideal as it does add some value hands for him. I'm checking this spot every time to give him a chance to fire if he's bluffing. He bets $110. I toss in the call and he mucks his hand. Stack moves up to $1,400 after this pot, so we have $600 in profit. So far, so good. Let's see if we can hold it or go to an even higher amount. I would love to give away more. 2 hands later, we go to war with that opponent once again. I pick up ace-king, raise to $20, and he jams the short stack. Listen to the discussion we have here.
All right, can we put him face up?
No.
No? No?
No, don't face
All right,
up.
well, I'm calling either way.
Pop quiz. My opponent has moved all in, doesn't want to show his cards. Which of the following statements is correct? A, he's slow rolling me with aces. B, he has garbage and he doesn't want to show me what he's bluffing with. C, English is a second language for him, and face up means something completely different in his native tongue. Or option D, he is a supervillain with a duplicate deck of cards up his sleeve, and he's about to modify his hand when I'm not looking so that it matches the board perfectly and he wins this pot. Said option D, change his hand into a winner last minute, it seems that you are correct. Next time I'm going to have to hold the camera on his cards instead of on the board so I can catch him in the act. Stack takes a hit, but we're still up. After this hand, the table starts to thin out a bit. I'm sitting at the second game and the main game is pulling. We don't have a list, so we're getting pretty thin. We're playing 4-handed for this next one, and I get jacks in the small blind. The button makes the call. I raise it up to $30. Big blind calls, and the button calls. Flop is dreamy for this hand as we flop middle set on a board where our opponents will never have top set, but there's an overpair and obvious draws on the board. I bet tiny for $35 to start building a pot. The big blind folds, and the button also folds. Oh! A surprisingly terrible result given that we should be getting called here a ton on this flop with a tiny bet, but I won't complain as we do still add chips to the stack. Now it's time for the terrible play of the episode. Not proud of this one, but I feel like every session I've got something to share with you where I go, this was really ugly. I wish I hadn't done it. Here we go. I open pocket tens in a shorthanded game. We're playing 3-5. There's a $10 straddle on. There's a limp, and I raise it to $50. The limper calls, and we head to a flop. Flop is good for my range, but bad for my actual hand. Looking back on this spot, this is a pretty easy check. But for some reason, I decided this is good for my range, not as good for his. I'm going to go ahead and bet this. The problem with betting this spot is it's going to shape far less comfortable lines on the turn and the river for me. When I check, I open up a ton of options for myself and really stay really flexible in this hand. When I take this line, it kind of narrows things, and it's a pretty poor play in my opinion. That's what I did. He makes the call. Let's go to the turn. Turn is a king, and I slow down with a check, figuring that the hands that were willing to call this flop are often way ahead here, or are close in value and willing to check. He does end up making a check behind. His check on the turn doesn't inform us a whole lot here because of the way I played the flop. He can have a queen, he can have a weak ace, and he can just be trying to control the size of the pot to see what happens on the river. River's a 7. I check again, just hoping that he has something like pocket 9s and wants to show it down, maybe pocket 8s. Instead, he ends up making a bet. $80 into 200. I don't have to be good here very often, but it's difficult to identify enough hands that are taking this line that we're ahead of. I end up just folding this one and then looking back and wishing I had played it differently. It immediately was like, ugh, what did I just do? I end up talking this one through in the Discord later, and SBR Poker, appreciate you, dude. Thanks for talking this one through and helping me think about it better. Just really misplayed this one. I don't often find myself in completely uncharted waters these days when I'm playing. Like, I've played long enough that I've seen most reasonable lines. Most things are not surprising to me. But in this hand, I was completely lost. I'm playing against an opponent who's very aggressive. I've played with him a lot before. Talented player, but like capable of almost anything. I open pocket 5s to $15. We're playing four-handed here, and the button is a very aggressive player who raises to $50. I toss in the call. We're both very deep, and a set could easily pay off. Flop is 10-10 jack. I check, he checks back. Turn is a 3. Now, I think you could argue that I could have some bets here, but knowing that his aggressive tendencies, I decide to check again. And this time he checks back. River is the 7 of spades. Now I'm like, okay, I'm just going to check. I think he's going to fire most of the time, and I can call pretty easily. Well, he bets $300. So then I go, hold on. I have to pump the brakes, and I have to think, what the heck is he doing this with? Either he flopped a 10 or a boat or something crazy, or he has absolutely nothing. This was a weird spot. I don't know what to do. 3x the pot here on the river when we've had no action. I want to call so bad. All I want to do is call, but I'm like, man, I think sometimes I'm going to be paying off this trap. Ultimately, at the end, I just kind of chuckled, threw the cards into the muck, and was like, I don't know. I can't make the call here for 3x pot. And he turns over, deuce 6 suited. Oh, it hurts. Nice play, Monty. Dude, that was a rough one. I've been bamboozled. Tell me down below what you would have done facing a 3x pot on that river. Next hand, I have jacks in the big blind. Button opens to $15. I decide to mix in the jacks as a call here. We've been playing short-handed. Once in a while, it's kind of nice to have some sneaky value. Flop's fine for my hand. My opponent will often continue on this dry flop, so I check. He does bet $20 when I check it over, and I'm just going to make the call here. Turn is the 4 of hearts. I check again. This time it checks through. River pairs the 4, and now I need to go for the bet because this will often get checked back if I check. I bet 55 targeting the 8 and small pairs along with the king high that might flick in the call. He does make the call, and the jacks are enough to take it. Next up, it's bomb pot time, and I'm holding the dirty diaper. Now, if you don't know what the dirty diaper is, the 3 resembles a butt. The deuce is a deuce, so it's a butt with a deuce, and the offsuit variety is the dirty diaper. So there's a diaper and a dirty diaper. I've got a dirty diaper. We flop the dummy end of a gut shot straight draw with my trash hand. This table is full of aggro players, and as I usually do, I'm playing my tighter style, meaning that my image is strong here. I check. There's a bet of $50 and a call. Okay, I may not be the most skilled player at the table right now, but I'm also not a medium skilled player. I have what's known in the industry as extra medium skills, meaning slightly above average. I bump it up to $220 here. I don't want to get called, But we are playing deep, and this raise represents a very expensive hand if my opponents do decide to come along. They both fold pretty quickly, and I'm just going to let them know, hey, good fold, I had it. Turn the cards face up. Still playing four-handed when I get a suited ace and call a $15 raise in the big blind. Flop is Jack 4 deuce rainbow. I check, opponent bets $25. I'm going to call here as I have a backdoor flush draw and this board is really dry. My ace could be good. There's another jack and this time it checks through. River, I check again. My opponent bets $70. Now it's hard to see many hands that have flopped something and want to go for value here. I start hearing superhero music in my ears. The Cape is calling to me. This city needs someone with the onions to fight back against these obvious bluffing spots. I bravely call to push back the villainy. Turns out I should leave the crime fighting to the professionals as my opponent has a 4 and just took me to Value Town, gave me a spanking. This leaves me with $1,155 for a net gain of $355. Now the fun part of the whole episode, the Christmas portion. I'm giving some stuff away. It's time for presents. $355. I'm giving away 10% to the Patreon community like I always do. If you want free money, you know what to do. Go down below in the description, sign up for the Patreon. $5 a month enters you to win. $36 giveaway will be on the Patreon. For the rest of you, I've got some shirts that I'm going to be giving away from the store. So I'm giving away 12 shirts. All you have to do is sub the channel and comment down below. You can comment about anything. Any comment on there is going to be entered automatically to win. And you can tell me once I reach out to you, if you are a winner, what shirt you would like from the store and the size and all that information with your address, and I'll send it your way.
Hey, thanks for being here. I hope you really enjoyed this. Enjoy time with your family this holiday season, and I will see you in the next episode.